Call me old man Wade.
Damn you, old man!
Wait.
Old ass man.
Shut up, old man. You smell like fart.
No!
Old man.
He's so old, he got a podcast on cassette.
Fuck, you're old.
Damn it, Wade.
So when I recorded Ball Black Nerds yesterday with Brandon and Javi, we had a giant discussion about DC Comics and what they're going forward. And it turned into a conversation about what makes sense. And I kept saying, like, oh, you're thinking like a comic book fan. And Brandon, being the great debater that he is, changed the way I thought about it towards like the middle or end of the episode. I was kind of mad.
Brandon's got that skill set.
There's 3 words that I hate saying, and it's Brandon was right.
But Brandon is right a lot.
He really is.
Don't get me wrong. I'll fight him when I'm right, but he's right a lot of times. So you just gotta accept that.
Oh yeah, and it was great because I'm like, all right, well, blah blah blah, yakety smackety, whatever. And we're talking about it. I'm like, fuck, this makes a lot of sense. So for those of you, so welcome to the Old Man Wade Show. I am your host, the God of Stub and the Lord of Laughter, Old Man Wade, and I'm here with my favorite curmudgeon.
Curmudgeon.
I almost want to call you a cousin curmudgeon.
That works too.
My cousin.
I like alliteration. You know I do.
Oh yeah, alliteration is the best. My cousin curmudgeon, my auntie, host of the Militantly Mixed podcast, adventurer. She is a militantly isn't just something because it's alliteration. She actually is militant. She's bi-furious. She's pro getting the male's G-spot.
I just think everybody should enjoy pleasure wherever you can get it, as long as it's consensual and of legal age.
To quote Harley Quinn, ladies and gentlemen, gays and days, Miss Sharmane.
Bam, 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 bam. What's up, y'all?
What's going on? So this was a preempt. This was like impromptu.
Yes, we have no plan. We're just gonna see what happens.
Yes, I'm taking Scarlett for a walk. I didn't have an Old Man Wade episode for the week, and I was like, I'm just gonna go without one. And then a light bulb hit. I said, let me text my auntie and see if she's free.
Yeah.
So my auntie's free, and we were talking about Black Adam in the beginning of the show. And before I hit record, we were discussing it. So I said, fuck it, let me just hit record and we can get right into it.
Okay.
Just for a warning, this will be spoiler full. We'll be talking about everything that happened.
It's been enough days.
So
hi, Scarlett.
I am not a big Black Adam fan in terms of like the knowledge of what he was. I like what he represents as like a villain who pretty much is just like, I'm gonna do what I want. And there's not a fucking thing you do about it, because not only am I a king, I'm a god.
I think we could relate to an anti-hero more often in our current age than maybe when he was conceived.
Absolutely. And so going in, but also DC has let us down multiple times over the last decade. So going into this, I had 0 expectations. Went to a drive-thru. It was me, Valkyrie, Javi, and his wife. And so we went. And I'm not going to lie, I was thoroughly entertained.
It was entertaining. Full disclosure, I'm a DC hater. I've always said I'm Marvel manie. I am pro Marvel, and most of what I read is Marvel. I've always had Batman and Gotham as a side piece, but even where that's concerned, I'm more into the villains than I am Batman himself nowadays, because he's a white man in a police state, but a rich white man in a police state. But where the movies and stuff are concerned, I have been on record as a hater, and I will maintain my hater status. That being said, this was entertaining. It's got problems.
Oh, it has a lot of problems. I'm gonna say this. This is where me and Brandon were talking about it. I said this is DC Comics Fast and the Furious. It's really all it is. It's just
my biggest beef is the lack of character development. They it's so crazy because they have a model. Marvel showed us how you do this.
I don't even know if there was a lack of character development or if there was just no character development at all. The
No,
closest
there was. It just wasn't across the board. So you got enough so that you understood Black Adam and his motivation. I feel like you really understand, and I don't know the name of her character in the movie, but Sarah Shahi, because she's been on my spank list for many years. Her and her son's motivation, I feel like you understand them very well. But if you're not a comic book reader, you're not going to understand.
oh my god, her name is Isis.
Dope. It's fine. I take that breath because we're talking about a make believe Middle Eastern country, but okay, fine. It's whatever.
Damn, I just googled her and then typed in nude.
Yeah, she's been on my list for more than a decade.
Damn.
I'm about that life. I was also flabbergasted when I found out who she ended up marrying and stuff like that. But anyways, I feel like you understand her motivation. You get her deal. You get the son. You get Adam. But in terms of who's supposed to be our heroes, if you're not a comic book character or comic book reader, you're not going to understand them, and they don't feel cohesive enough. And also, in a god level threat, you're
He
really going
married
to
the
send.
goofy dude from Shameless.
Yeah, she did.
You know what? I'm not
They're
even.
they're real funny. So
I'm not
I
even mad
also
at
married a goofy person, so I get it. But yeah. But she's been on my list for many, many years.
Sorry, I just
So
looked
yes,
and saw that.
when it comes to our heroes, the people that we're technically supposed to care about, if you're not a comic book reader, you didn't get enough development for them. They're not a cohesive team. And DC has the audacity to say, hey, let's send everybody who's untested in a god level threat to this threat instead of tested people. That's nonsense. They should have built this up in such a way that you had at least one of your major existing actors, Wonder Woman or Henry Cavill, which, spoiler alert, he pops up in the end, but not sufficient for the movie. I know Ben Affleck's still working out his deal or whatever, but they should have had one of them present. It was silly.
I was gonna say they just sent all the people of color, but dude who played Adam Smasher is just fucking Italian and German, so he's not a person of color.
Yeah, and Dr. Fate is British, so
Yeah, but like it was just like, hey, we're gonna send Cyclone and Hawkman.
in terms of DC having a predominantly person of the global majority cast, yes, they did that. They gave us Dr. Fate because he's been in existence longer than Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange seems to have a fan base, so they're like, DC's got a Doctor Strange too. Let's go ahead and show that to you.
Yeah, but actually, Doctor Strange is actually a medical doctor, though. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
Yeah, he's a medical doctor with some mystic skill set. Dr. Fate is just like an old white man that is also an alien, or is the hat keeping him alive?
I don't know how that works.
I don't know Dr. Fate well enough. I know that he has existed longer than Doctor Strange. So, I'm not going to be one of those DC copies everything Marvel does, because I know that there are some cases in which DC had the character first. That being said,
Like
they
Deadpool
probably
and,
are introducing people to the DC studios because of what's popular on the Marvel side.
It's a smart business move if it's done right. And from what I saw of Black Adam, it seems like they actually did this properly. But as we know, it could turn south really quickly. Like, we could be happy about how entertaining this is, and then the next movie could be absolutely dog shit.
Well, I already have beef with certain things. Like, okay, great. Hawkman is a black man and he is at the head of the team. Wonderful. What was he? A fucking cop. You know what I'm saying? Like, he is talking about how you have to control Black Adam because of all the stuff that he's got going on. Meanwhile, he's working for fucking
Amanda Waller of all.
Amanda Waller. If you if you're gonna tell me that you can't contain, that you need to contain Black Adam, but that you have no beef with what Amanda Waller does, like, bro, seriously, that bothers me. Am I glad that Aldous Hodge has a main level DC character that they can hopefully make a movie for? Yeah, absolutely. I want to see that man all day. But they made him black billionaire cop working for a government agency that is extremely problematic
Yeah.
while trying to profess that his enemy is more problematic than what he's working for. And I take issue with that because Hawkman is being played by a black man. If Hawkman was being played by a white guy, I'd be like, that's just status quo.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have as many questions.
And
I have
that's
a lot
also
of questions with
that's also Hawkman's character is someone who just kind of just follows, and not even just follows. Like even when he doesn't follow, he does reckless shit. So it would make sense that he would work with somebody like that. But this seemed weird, and
yeah. So that's what little I understand about him as a character too. It also seemed like, okay, did they just give us Black Iron Man with
oh, you'll love this. Brandon called him fake Black Panther.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
I'm mad at how true that is. Like they even, because then Javi was like, "Yo, didn't they put him in African garb?" I was like, "Oh shit, they did."
They did. They 100% did.
Yo, then they had the nerve to pull out their jet like they were the X-Men. I was like, "Stop!"
That's the other thing. Like, I mean, my thing is that if you're going to introduce a team that has not been tested on screen yet, at least give us a team who's worked together before.
Yes.
You could flash back a little bit so you know that they're a cohesive unit. Instead, Hawkman's just like, yeah, I picked up some random fools. We're going to bang this one out. We're talking about a God level threat. Yeah. This is DC Studios' problem. God level threats. You can't just throw untested people out there. You have to have a cohesive team of experienced heroes, and you have one person in intern level. You know, you either have Atom Smasher or you have Cyclone.
Yeah.
Cyclone. One or the other. Or you tell us Cyclone's been tested, Atom Smasher's the new guy.
That's the other thing I was saying. I was like, yo, they didn't even have to mention that they weren't battle tested. That wasn't something that needed to be said.
It made it worse that they said they weren't battle tested.
Because it could have been one of them situations like I'm guessing they're like, oh, but this would be funny if we said that. And it's like, nah, it's good for a yuck. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. But they could have just been like you keep doing this. Like, you know what I mean? Like something like that. Like you need to stop doing this, or like there are ways around that. And I kind of just it felt lazy.
It felt like a hero version of the Suicide Squad. So the Suicide Squad, you expect mess, right? Yes. You're talking about high-level villain threats who aren't working together as a team.
Criminals.
You throw a necklace on that'll kill them if they fuck up, and you say, "Go be a team, or we'll kill you." And then shit gets messy. That shit makes sense. You can do anything with that, with those villains. But if you do non-battle tested team up at a God level threat. I mean, this is what's crazy. They sent less qualified people to fight Black Adam than they sent qualified villains to fight Starro. You know what I'm saying? Like
the Suicide Squad might have done a better job.
You know what I'm saying? That's exactly what I'm trying to say. Like, and don't get me wrong. Was I entertained about the movie? Yes, I was entertained. Did I have issues? Of course, I always have issues. But like, it was still funny. It had its moments. I really liked the boy.
I hated him.
You did? I thought he was really good. I thought I enjoyed his deal. I understand that he's supposed to be the thing that balances Black Adam's evil because he reminds him of his son and all that kind of shit. Like he played the role he was supposed to play, and he's one of the few developed characters. But
let me say this: the actor himself was good.
Yeah.
But every time that kid was on screen, he annoyed me. Like,
I'll give you an example. Fuck them kids. I also am of camp fuck them kids, but
so here's my thing. I'll give you a perfect example of why he annoyed me. And it had nothing to, like I said, it had nothing to do with the actor. There's a specific scene where Black Adam is floating down in their apartment complex, right? And he's got the skateboard, which I'm like, all right, cool. You know, you got the skateboard, that's part of your identity. But like, he would get on the skateboard for less than 2 seconds to pick it up again. I'm like, what the fuck is the point of that?
All right, let me tell you, because I'm from California. That shit's legit. I am not a skateboarder, but I am from Southern California, where skateboarding was a big deal. The amount of times a person will get on their skateboard for 2 seconds just to step off of it it's incessant. You just expect it. That reads very accurate to me. That's how kids are on skateboards in California.
You know what? That just made it even dumber to me. What the fuck are y'all doing? was so annoyed by that. And it was irrationally annoyed by that. So that's what made it even worse.
That's
I'm
funny.
looking at this going, what the fuck is going on right now?
So
And
where I had that kind of irrational moment, it was just like, we're not gonna explain why Black Adam has not only the ability to speak English immediately, but
Oh
that
my
it's a
God.
non-accented English, and
you knew pop culture.
all the other people who are from that place that are brown have an accented English. It bothers me they spoke English as much as they did, because I know American audience would be like, "What? Arabic?"
What is
But
that?
yeah, exactly. But the fact that like Dwayne, and I'm calling him Dwayne right now, Dwayne
That's his
can't
name. He ain't the Rock anymore.
pull an accent for an Arabic character. Fine. Immediately speak English with an American accent. Okay, fine. Thanks, DC.
All right, I'm gonna say this. All right, because I don't know if you know this. I'm not a fan of Dwayne Johnson, the person. We may have
Oh,
actually.
you're not?
No. He's one of those people who loves being conveniently Black when it suits his purpose.
I co-sign that. He definitely does.
I have never liked that about him. It's always been something I thought has been incredibly problematic. And I don't even care. Let me rephrase. I don't mind that he embraces his Samoan side. That's something he's always done. And I respect the shit out of that, especially considering Samoan culture it's big in wrestling, but for the most part, people don't even know what that is. Unless you're a wrestling fan, the common American California, your common person doesn't know what a Samoan is. So him being proud of that, I absolutely respect that. But I don't like the fact that like it's only convenient for him. He only brings it up when it's convenient for him.
The convenient Blackness is a problem. I will say, like, the way he embraces publicly his Samoan identity is fine to me, because like me, I'm a Black Asian. Even though I'm yellow in my presentation, I grew up Black. So I own my Blackness before I own everything else. I'm up front with it by saying I'm hierarchically Black first, then Japanese, and then a little bit British because I have a British grandmother. But at all times, even when I'm place switching between my ethnic and cultural identities throughout a day, I never stop being the other thing. Whereas I think in The Rock's way, he's Black when he needs to be, but Samoan all the other times. And again, as a mixed person, I'm not mad at you embracing the culture you were raised the most around more than anything else, but acknowledging that that's what's happening. Because because again, just what I do, I'm not sitting here, like if I'm feeling very Japanese today because I went to a Japanese market, I went to the festival, I'm eating Japanese food today, I'm still having a very Japanese day. I'm still mixed Black main.
Yes.
I'm always Black first. You know what I'm saying? Whereas like he's Black in movies because they always give him Black kids, except for this movie. They gave him a kid that looked like the culture of people that were there.
They give him a black kid, but make sure that his significant other or love interest is almost always white.
Right. Or something that's non-Black.
Yes.
Sometimes they're just non-Black too. But yeah, so that's a thing. And then he also code switches with a little bit more of Black slang when he's like with Kevin Hart, or when he's doing something more Black, he amps up his Black accent. Whereas like someone like me, I talk the way that I talk, and while I do sometimes have more slang or whatever than others, that's a product of working in a corporate where I've had to perform a corporate accent, and then I switch out of it when I get home, whereas he seems to be switching into the Black accent when he needs it.
And that's my biggest issue with it. And like, you do what you need to do, like, based on what it is. But let's take my wife, for example, Cape Verdean and white. She embraces her Cape Verdean side, but doesn't ever denounce her white side. Like, you know what I mean? But she also lets everybody know, like, I'm a Black woman. Like, my island is off the coast of Africa. Like, she doesn't hide that shit at all. Like, you know what I mean? And especially recently, because she's never hidden it. But once it started getting bad for people of color, she amped it up even more. Like, you know what I mean? She was like, fuck y'all. Because unfortunately, some people can pass. And she could easily just be like, oh, I'm Spanish. And no one would even
she could pass for Hispanic,
yeah.
Latino.
But at no point in time that she does, she's like, no, I'm going to ride with my people. And that's something that kind of like really befuddles me about some of the things that he does. And it could be a reason for that. And then 10 years from now, he could say, hey, now that I've amassed enough money, I am going to use what I've done, because we all have to play a game. And that's one of the things I truly believe that a lot of us forget, that sometimes you have to play a game. I'm not saying that you should sacrifice who you are to play said game. However, you can't just buck the system at all costs. And that's what I call Joe Buddening yourself.
Well, I mean, it's a different thing. Like, again, as a mixed person who talks to a lot of mixed people all the time, because I have a podcast about this.
What's this podcast called again?
Militantly Mixed.
Thank you very much.
But like, I have conversations with people who were raised with one culture more dominant than the other. Fair. Yes. Absolutely fair. But like your wife, just acknowledging, I have these other things in me, but here's my predominant culture, so this is how I move. I work that same way too. Like, yes, I understand that I have Asian textured hair and that I'm a yellow brown person, but I'm Black and I move Black because that's how I grew up. Like, those are the people I grew up around. That's the side of the family that I grew up around predominantly. I make jokes about being weekend Japanese, because while I did spend a lot of time with my Japanese family, I didn't get to move in the world like a Japanese person. In fact, we kind of hid who I was related to when in public, because my family was worried people would figure out we were Black because racism. So things like that. So like I'm never not moving with, I'm hierarchically prioritizing Blackness above everything else, because that's my predominant culture. It just is. That being said, I can't hide from the fact that both of my parents are actually white biracial. Both of them have a white parent. I only know one of my grandparents, my white grandparents, and I didn't grow up around white people. So while technically I am ethnically half white, I can't move as a white person. I have very little access to, let's say, white American culture, whatever you want to call that. I had access to my British white culture. So there's some British things I absolutely do. And you've busted me a couple of times on the way I speak, like the things I say, where you're like, have you been watching something British, or is that just something you say? Like, that kind of stuff happens to me a lot. But I'm still a Black person and a Japanese person predominantly. Like, those are the ways that I move predominantly. So I make room for mixed people to exist in whatever culture was their dominant culture. That seems to be absolutely fine to me. But my problem is when you turn it on for the sake of fill in the blank event or fill in the blank need. Obama, great example. He grew up with his white side of his family. He grew up in Indonesia and Hawaii and things like that. He didn't start experiencing what happens to Black men in America until he was going into college, pretty much. So when he would be on campaign trail, or when he was the president going into the South, and all of a sudden him having a Southern Black accent, that bothered me, because number one, you don't have that accent. Number two, you didn't grow up down there. And number three, just because you started to get yourself involved in more civil rights related things as you became an adult, doesn't mean that you can say that in the accent you come with. You don't have to fake an accent for the sake of the vote or whatever it is. And then he would prove himself, like how entrenched in whiteness he was, in different ways, like the way he avoided talking about anything related to Flint, during the water crisis. In fact, just sitting there in the room, not moving, not talking, not engaging during one of those critical times. That shows me you grew up white. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's not to take away the Black, white, biracial experience, but it is to say that a person who spends that much time steeped in whiteness, becoming, in quotation fingers, Black all of a sudden because he married a Black woman, he started doing Black work, doesn't mean that he can just turn on a Black Southern accent, because we don't all have Black Southern accents.
No, we don't even all have Black accents. And
or whatever that means to have a Black accent, right?
That was the next thing I was going to say, because someone asked, a woman I used to hang out with when I was in high school, and a little bit after that, she had a report due, and they asked her, like, write it as if you're Black. And she goes, what do you, and she asked him, what do you mean by, what do you mean by that? Because she goes, I don't know what you mean by talk Black. Like, there's no such thing as talking Black. depending on where you are, you may
If
have
I'm black, I'm talking black.
Yeah, like
because I'm black.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it. That's
so, like,
it.
people don't get the concept of like there's let's take Blurred Vision for example. Like he has just like the most West Coast fucking like
he has a Bay Area West Coast accent. Yes, absolutely.
And they go that part, Bay Area. There's a difference between
there's a very specific accent he has.
Yes. Like, you know what I mean? And like people hear me and they go, "Oh, you have an accent." I go, "I do." But I guess it's just an East Coast Boston kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I like, you know what I mean? In New York has a completely different accent than everyone else. And this is one of the reasons why it kind of perturbed me when someone was talking about, I was reading these articles and they were talking about Awkwafina. And I'm like, she's talking like how she was raised.
No, she's not. I absolutely 100% disagree with you. Mixed Asian rolling in. She grew up in the white side of Queens, the affluent side of Queens. She did not grow up around Black people, and that part of Queens does not have that accent. That is performative, and you know it's performative because she no longer uses it. You know why she no longer loses it? Because she's getting paid by Marvel. Marvel made her immediately stop that Black accent nonsense. And she continues to say that white man apology, which is like, if I offended people, I didn't mean to. So then, therefore, I am sorry. She only started to actually get closer to a real apology after Marvel started paying her, but she still will shake her head no while she's doing it. That is not her natural accent. She has never talked like that when she's getting paid by a big corporation. She has only talked like that when she had her YouTube thing that made her grow up and blow up, and before she got big. That accent is 100% gone from her now. She does have somewhat of a New York cadence, but that over performative Black accent that she had when she was Awkwafina, when she was really Awkwafina with the music and the videos and stuff like that, that is 100% gone now.
So let me ask you a question well, on that same topic. And if you're listening, we're probably not going to be talking about Black Adam for the rest of this episode.
We'll jump back into it, I'm sure. But if we just went down a path, because, mixed people sometimes can be, I got to get in. Because here's the thing. I'm mixed, but I'm not going to cape for every mixed person. Awkwafina is a mixed Asian, but she's two different kinds of Asian.
Oh, okay.
She comes from two different Asian cultures.
If you started caping for people just because, like, I don't think we would be as cool as we are, because like I don't fuck with halfway crooks.
It's so funny because I have that "ain't no such thing as halfway crooks" as a sticker right there. It's on my computer. It's literally my mantra that I say to myself all the time, is the reason, like, it's the thing that makes me motivated to do. But yes, with mixed folks, there are some of us out there on the streets that behave problematically and will use being mixed as a reason why they can get away with it. In Awkwafina's case in particular, she uses "I'm from New York" as a way to get away from it. She is from a very affluent New York suburb that is predominantly white, where the people around her do not talk like that.
So let me ask you a question. Now, I'm from Mattapan. I'm from a very hood part of Boston. And then people like Brandon had this conversation. He was just like, "There's Black parts of Boston." And me and Javi were like, "Oh, fuck yeah. There are really Black parts of Boston." So like, so she could be from, and I'm this is me playing devil's advocate, because obviously you've done more research on this. And Javi's gonna be upset that he wasn't on here to have this conversation, because he actually wanted to. And I said, I'm not having this conversation because I'm not arguing with Sharmane and Stephanie. Not doing it. I'm cool.
Stephanie and I have had this discussion. We're both on the same page about it, because
Yeah. I just saw, I was like, I've gotten to a point now, like, there are certain conversations I'm just not gonna have because I don't really give a shit. But Javi wants to have a legitimate conversation about it, and when he wants to do it, I am going to introduce a show and then I'm logging off. Because Javi doesn't.
It's the old Maine Wade show.
Fine by me.
Featuring Javi Woke Javi.
So, which is fine by me, because Javi doesn't need me to defend himself. He can do what he needs to do. So I'm not worried about Javi misrepresenting the brand. But anyway, so the reason I bring, so what about a person who, in that case, may not be born around that, but was raised around it? So like, you have people who aren't necessarily born around a culture. Like we could take Eminem, for example. Like he talks about like the place he's from, it's pretty white. So like it's false when he says he grew up in certain areas, and it's been proven.
Oh, is that true? I didn't know that. I've always thought that he did grow up in that
he
area.
grew up he grew up in that area, but he wasn't as poor as he made it out to be.
Oh.
He wasn't like, he's not Daniel Tosh or Drake. Like, you know what I mean? But he wasn't like, he probably grew up like we grew up.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Well, I grew up hood. I grew up actual hood. Like I'm from Long Beach, so
Yeah, like you grew up. So let me rephrase. He wasn't as poor as like he makes it out to be. That was the understanding that I got from the stuff that I've seen. But you know, the internet could be lying about that as well. So who fucking knows?
Mhm.
But my point being is, it's like you find a culture, you embrace the culture, you grow up around the culture. Is it faking the funk if you're still doing it a certain way, even though it's an appreciation kind of thing? Because honestly, if someone said something to me, like, I'm not apologizing for shit. If I say, let me rephrase, if I go on some Kanye West kind of like rant, then yeah, I will apologize until the day is done. I'm apologizing for shit that I said on Twitter 10 years ago. Like, you know what I mean? So I'm understanding of the mistakes that I've made. However, if I embrace the culture, I use fairly often, you'll hear me use British slang. We've had the conversation about how Brits have the best slang ever. But it's not necessarily appropriate. Is it appropriating a culture? Because I think
you're not walking around speaking in a British accent all the time and using British slang. You're dropping in British slang when it's funny or the moment suits, right?
I'm not Madonna.
You're not Madonna. You're not Angelina Jolie. You're not one of these people that will like take on an accent and say, oh, because my children are from there, because I lived there for a long time. Now, I am a person, and I think this has to do with the fact that I have grandparents from different countries. I will slide into accents when I'm hearing someone speak to me. I don't do it intentionally. It just happens. That being said, it doesn't happen all the time. So if I'm talking to a British person, I have my own English accent because I grew up with a British grandmother and I used to speak like her for a little while before I went to school. I will slide into that if I'm talking to another British person. Sometimes it takes me a minute, sometimes it doesn't. If I talk to an Irish person, as long as I can hear the accent, I will slide into it. And then someone has to tell me on the outside, like, hey, you're doing it. And I'm like, oh shit, I didn't mean to. What I don't do is when an Asian accent. I will do my grandmother's accent when I'm telling a story that is me and my grandma, but I don't fall into an Asian accent when I'm speaking to an Asian person. Like kind of, it just doesn't happen, right? And I hate when people put me in a position to have to defend Eminem, but here's a moment in which there's a way in which I will defend him. I mean, there's issues with him profiting off of Black culture, blah 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 blah.
He's
whatever.
also been the first one to admit that he understands his privilege.
Right. He understands his privilege. He doesn't have a black scent.
No, but
he uses hip hop slang. He uses black slang. He uses slang from the friends and group that he grew up with and hung out with. Absolutely. But he doesn't walk around with an accent. Whereas someone like Awkwafina, the accent she uses is a performative. It's the Shaniqua. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody who has a black scent, every non-black person who walks around with a black scent, they have a very specific performative accent. It's Shaniqua or it's Tyrone, right? Like it's never every guard. It's not like, because my black scent, if I'm going to adopt a black scent, which I don't even know how to finish a sentence because
I'm trying really hard not to make a Bane joke and go, I was born in the black.
I was born in the, you know, like, so like, here's the thing. As a mixed person who mostly always gets acknowledged by black people as being black, like without me having to tell you I'm black, you usually know by looking at me, even though I'm yellow, even though I have an Asian textured hair. But when COVID came on and I had to start wearing a mask, all of a sudden I started being coded as Asian for the first time in my life. I have never been assumed Asian until post-COVID, because once you cover that part of my face, you take away what is more obviously black about me, and so people started to acknowledge me as Asian or whatever. I'm never accused of having a black scent when I speak in my native way, right? Because I'm from North Long Beach or whatever. I'm not accused of a black scent because I'm not doing a performative Shaniqua accent. I think
that's where it hit the nail on the head when you called it performative.
It's performative. this is my natural way of talking. So while sometimes I will, and I'm not going to use this word and mean it, but in the way that even Black folks will say, I'm talking proper right now, or it was something like that, meaning white.
Yeah.
I won't even go that far to say that I talk white. I will say that in corporate settings, I absolutely adopted a different accent, but that was my performance. Now, I spent so much time in corporate that it became a part of my natural accent, but when I am around people who have an accent similar to me, I slip into it more naturally. So when I was at like the comic book shop throughout the day, my business partner would say, like, you sound blacker and blacker as the day goes on. And it's kind of like I said, it's like a memento thing. Like I would wake up and talk like you're hearing me talk now, but the longer I went through the day interacting with people from my community, the more
I think it's a comfort level thing at that.
cadence, yeah, the comfort level would happen. And so by the end of the day, you could hear my Long Beach coming out. And don't let someone be from my neighborhoods, because every now and then someone from Watts or Long Beach or Carson or something like that would roll up, and then we would be like, how do you say this? Because we just were so excited that someone said some shit the way we say some shit, that we would get excited and do that. But I've never one time ever in my life been accused of using a Black accent. That's because even though people can detect Blackness in the way that I speak, it's not performative. It doesn't sound fake because it's my natural fucking accent. It's the accent I was raised in. And that slang is natural to me because this is the slang that was used when I was growing up. Whereas someone like Awkwafina uses terminology and things like that seems very performative. She does a neck roll. She used to do a neck roll when she would talk.
No. So, Javi, I didn't want you to hear this secondhand.
He's cheating on you, Javi.
Charmaine. Yeah. So, hang up and call me back. All right. Fucking, this is gonna happen. Why the fuck not? So I'm just gonna wait for him because I know he's gonna be mad if I have this fucking conversation without him.
Your show is a damn mess every time.
Charmaine, can you still hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
I can hear you.
Javi, what are you doing right this second?
Right now, nothing at the moment. I will be doing something at. Hold on, let me see something.
It's 3:14 now.
I'll be doing something at 4.
If I send you a Zoom link, can you hop on for like 10 minutes?
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna send you a Zoom link right now. All right.
All right.
All right, peace. Yeah, I just figured, fuck it. Let me just call him.
And you're gonna leave all this part in, right? Like you're not even gonna edit out this part.
You know me well enough. This shit is just this is just happening.
It's a damn mess every time.
It's me. I'm sober for this shit too.
I prefer sober conversations.
It's funny, like I've been recording intoxicated less and less as time's gone on. It's just a lot easier for me. Like there have been a few times, but like more often than not recently, I record sober now. It's a lot easier for me to get my words out. It's a little more coherent. I've also been drinking a lot less too, so there's also that as well. Because I don't necessarily like hangovers. I've been, like I said, it's been a lot more coherent. It's been a lot easier to do, and especially now since I'm trying to make this a profitable thing, I would much rather. If I fuck up, I want to say I fucked up because it was me, not because I decided I wanted to get shit faced. Like, you know what I mean? Like, have I had I'm trying to think the last time I may have had, I don't even know if the last time I recorded the Old Man Way show, if I had any drinks on me, but regardless of how it is, I'm just happier doing it this way now. And I had a few before I came home, but I sobered up by the time before I even texted you, I was already sober. So I'm like, see what's going on.
Damn it, Wade!